Personnel data preparation. Preparing your data for migration from an old system to a new one is an important task. The performance of your new system will only be as good as the data you provide for it. Give us good quality data and we'll deliver a good quality performance. Resourcing. Data preparation takes time. Make sure you allocate adequate resources and time to complete this task properly. You'll find a good working knowledge of Excel very helpful, so try to allocate the task to people who are suitably skilled. Data cleansing. The implementation period for a new system is a good time to tidy up your data, so take this opportunity to refine it. Find items of missing information and delete what's redundant. For example, if you have several job descriptions which essentially describe the same thing, unify them into a single code and description. Better still, map them to one of the standard codes. If the data you provide is unprepared, we won't be able to import it, and we'll return it to you for correction. This will lead to postponed training and missed project deadlines. Deadlines. We'll agree a date by which you will complete the data preparation. If you miss this deadline, we can't guarantee to migrate your data by the date on your project plan. This may result in your implementation being on hold until we have resources available. And during busy times, it may result in project delays of several weeks. So, let's get it right first time. If you need any advice while preparing your data, please contact us. We'll be happy to advise you. We'll provide you with import files in spreadsheet format. You populate these files with data extracted from your old system. This is the import file, number 1, personal details. Each spreadsheet has an accompanying document called field information, which describes the fields in more detail. Field information also tells you where in the software to find codes when you need them. This is the field information for number 1, personal details. Use codes wherever possible. We'll provide you with some basic lists of codes and descriptions in the file standard codes. These have been designed for the optimal running of the software, but during the scoping session, you may also have given us additional codes of your own. Whenever you can, put a code in the import file, not a description. For example, when completing gender, enter F, not female. Finding lists of codes and values. You can look up the code in the file standard codes. You can also look up codes in the software. Step 1. Select a window in the system where the field you need a code for is entered. For example, to find nationality codes, HR record, personal details. Step 2. Right-click nationality and yes. Step 3. Enter the correct code into the data import spreadsheet in column nationality. For example, if the employee's nationality is British, use BR. Asterisk denotes mandatory. If the field information has an asterisk, it must be completed. We cannot create a working system for you without this information. If you have any problem understanding what needs to be entered in mandatory fields, please contact us. Completing your data sheets. Personal details. Each employee in your organization will have one row in this import file. Employee ID. This is a mandatory field. It's the starting point for an employee record and uniquely identifies the employee. You'll have allocated a payroll number to each member of staff when they commenced employment. Enter it here. Title. This is a mandatory field, and it's your choice of title. Surname. We suggest you format the name fields as you would like to see them in reports and documents. Using all capital letters can look untidy. Forename. You'll notice that there's one column designated for forenames, so you need to enter all forenames in this column. Initials. These are the forename initials only, so don't include the surname. Enter BR for Ben Richard Matthews, not BRM. Salutation. This is optional, but you can enter a preferred version of the employee's forename for use in emails or letters to them. For example, Liz for Elizabeth. Known as. The Known As field appears across the header of the employee record in the main desktop, so whatever you enter here will be highly visible. This is usually a combination of the employee's forename and surname. Gender. Enter the code and not the description, so F and not female. Date of birth. This is mandatory and you should use the format DDMM YYYY. Marital status. Again, use the appropriate code here. Ethnic origin. This is an optional field which may appear on reports. Enter the code associated with the value you want, not the description. Nationality. Another optional field which may appear on reports. National insurance number. If you're running the payroll module, then for obvious reasons, this is mandatory. Pension ID. If the employee is part of the teacher's pension scheme, then this is mandatory. It's the employee's teacher's pension reference which is used for the MDC and should be 7 numeric digits only. Do not include characters such as \. Employee email address. This is an optional field. Enter the employee's work email address here. The email address may be used for workflow email notifications or to email a payslip to the employee. If you wish to, you can keep an additional email address on the employee's address sheet, which is covered later. Start date and service start date. These two dates are usually the same, but not always. The start date is the date the employee joined your organisation, but the continuous service start date will be different if they've transferred across from another organisation and have previous service. For teachers, this will be the date they commenced their first full-time teaching post. If the employee has left your organisation, enter the details in date left and the leaving reason code. Status ID. This is an important mandatory field. There are 3 possible entries. C is current, L is left, S is suspended. If you categorize a member of staff as suspended for any reason, they won't get paid. Salary. Enter the employee's total annual salary for all activities, i.e. jobs or roles, that they hold. Addresses. Employee reference. This is a key identifier and a mandatory field. Home address. It's mandatory for at least 2 lines of the home address to be completed. That's not our rule, it's the HMRC's rule. You need to complete consecutive lines in the address field, regardless of what data you're entering. Home fax. Enter the employee's mobile phone numbers here. All phone numbers should be entered in the format 5-digit area code, space, 6-digit number. Emergency contacts. You can enter the details of up to 3 emergency contacts for each person in the other columns of the spreadsheet. Employment history. This file holds the information for each activity, i.e. job or post, that an employee holds within your organisation. Although it's called employment history, it contains the employee's current activity as well as their history. You'll have at least 1 row for each employee, the row for their current activity. You may have a number of historic activities for each employee too. Activity. You need to enter the relevant code for the employee's job. Here, in our old system, we have 3 employees with activities which are essentially the same thing. Administrator, Swansea Centre. Administrative clerk, part-time. Admin assistant. If you use the same system code for all three in your new system, 1050 administrator, then you will get better results. You can easily get a list of all administrators, and you can assign defaults for the activity of administrator, which will automatically be used every time you have a new person in this role. This simplifies procedures, such as the setup of integration to your financial system. In this example, one of the activity descriptions in the old data includes the location, Swansea Centre. Another includes the fact that it's part-time. This information about the activity is recorded separately, so you don't need to have a unique activity for this. The activity should be 1050 administrator at location Swansea Centre, or administrator with part-time details set up in employment status. Description. If you leave this blank, the description used will be the one associated with the code you've used, but you can choose your own. Status. This is a mandatory field. Use one of the following codes. R. Primary active. The employee's main job will be primary active. Only one of their current roles can be primary active. A. Secondary active. If they have another live job, give it the code A for secondary active. For all previous activities which the employee is no longer undertaking, use H. Historical. When you log details of historical jobs, you need to enter a start date and an end date. For current jobs, you only need to enter the start date. Department ID. Department ID is a useful report filtering tool, allowing you to produce reports on specific groups of employees. You can break down information into categories by completing this field and searching on it. Location. Again, the code required here, and like the department, it's useful for report filtering. Line manager. The code to enter here is the line manager's employee number. It's not mandatory, but it offers you a key trigger for delivering line manager notifications via the workflow module. Holiday allowance. You need to enter the standard holiday allowance in this field for whichever holiday scheme applies to the individual member of staff. If you use salary grades and scale points, enter the appropriate codes in salary grade and scale point. WTE, whole time equivalent. How many hours and weeks would a full-time employee work in this job role? Enter the code which matches the correct whole time equivalent record here. Working pattern. Which pattern is the employee working to on this activity? If this field is left blank, the system will default to a standard Monday to Friday working week. Weeks per year. How many weeks per year are actually worked by this employee? Hours per week. How many hours each week are actually worked by this employee? Salary. This is the full-time salary for this activity. Even if this employee works part-time, enter the full-time equivalent. The system proportions part-time employee salary by comparing the actual hours and weeks worked with the hours and weeks defined on the whole-time equivalent you've used. It's a good idea to enter a salary even if you've already entered the employee's scale and grade point. We can use this to cross-check your data. If you haven't entered a scale and grade point, then salary is a mandatory field. Absences. This file holds the details of employee absences due to sickness, parental leave, unpaid leave, and holidays. Training is not usually recorded here. Employee ID. As before, this is a mandatory field. Absence type. This is mandatory. Enter the code for the type of absence here. We suggest you use one of the standard codes, for example, 10 for annual leave or 20 for sickness. Absence analysis. Again, we suggest you use a standard code to give the absence more description. For example, 2011 ATMA. Description. You can leave this blank, and the description associated with your absence analysis code will be used. If you enter something here, we'll use that instead. Start and end. The start and end date are required. Recording the start time and end time is optional. Duration in days. This is mandatory. Enter full day or half day periods. Duration in hours. This is optional. You can go back as far as you want with absence recording. These datasheets, personal details, addresses, employment history, and absences provide all the key information needed to get you started. There are 3 optional extra datasheets that you may also choose to complete. Qualifications. This holds details of the employee's qualifications. Training. This holds details of training courses the employees attended. If your old data has multiple training course records for what is essentially the same course, this is a good opportunity to tidy up the data. In the new system, you'll have better reporting as a result. Medical details. This is a record of any company medical examinations the employee may have had. When you've completed your datasheets, you should check them. You can often spot errors visually. For example, missing data in columns, or incorrect data types in columns. You can also do spot checks, such as counting the number of rows you have in personal details and making sure it's equal to the number of employees in your organization. We strongly recommend that you complete 1 sample row for each import file and send it to us for initial checking before completing the import files in full. When you send the data to us, we recommend that you password protect your files before you upload them to Basecamp. For your security, you should phone or text us the password separately. Remember, the information you get from your new system will only be as good as the data you provide us with. So this is a great opportunity to get it right. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact us.